Hi, I'm Brian. Welcome to Autogefühl. You join us today in Andorra, right at the heart of the Pyrenees. We've come here with the Cupra Ateca to take a closer look, to find out how all of that power translates when you're driving it on a slightly, I was going to say more challenging, more fun surface. Let's take a closer look at the design of the Cupra Ateca. Well, the first thing that you're going to notice when you look at the front is it's got a more aggressive feel than the standard Ateca. Now, at Autogefühl, we always like to do things a little differently, so we standardly bring you this shot from a nice scenic location. We figured why not bring it to you from the active racetrack. Obviously, we have safety marshals, but it seemed a little bit more fun. Now, the reason for that additional aggression on the front is twofold. First of all, we have this very aggressive looking lower portion of the design here. A lot of this is just aesthetic. This, for example, is completely solid. But I don't mind. I think I can forgive that. I like the way that the styling all works well together to present that aggressive fronting. The other thing that's absolutely key to making this all fit together is the decreased drop height. It's a full 10 millimeters. That's about that, lower than the standard Ateca. And that really comes across when you look at the front design. Now, slightly higher up, you see the standard way in which these lights really push through aggressively into the front. I'm liking that. So this is still dividing an awful lot of opinion. The new Cupra logo design, and that is overset, I should say, on top of a carbon fiber effect panel. Yes, it's going to divide opinion, but I think if you are going to split up the brand, you really do need to be making a statement. The Ateca is a very popular vehicle. There's no point in having a Cupra version unless stylistically as well, it makes a big, bold statement. So I think right from the first glance at the front of this car, you can see it is not an Ateca, and I think that's very important. So whether or not the styling's completely for you, at least you'll know what you're driving. How does that reflect through in the side? Let's take a look. 4 meters 38 or 14 feet 4 in length. You can see how the styling here is kept as aggressive as the front. These are, of course, special rims just for the Cupra. They're in the Cupra classic copper color, but you can have them in different if you're not a big fan of that. Bear with me. Well, they were taking it a little bit gently. I guess that's probably a good thing. Now, there are a couple of styling details that are different here from what you might expect. Being an SUV, it's quite typical to have a black plastic trim going above the wheel arches. Here, they've gone with color matching. Now, Thomas, in his review, wasn't the world's biggest fan of that. I actually quite like it. I think the emphasis on this car should be on the sporty nature of it and a little less on the SUV aspect. It really does help distinguish it from the standard Ateca. Now, coming slightly further back, we see that again here. We have color matching on the top of the door mirrors. Now, I'm a big fan of the Ateca design and aesthetic overall. I like the angularity, and I think it particularly works on this size of vehicle. So, nothing radical has changed here, but again, it's astonishing quite what a difference that change in ride height makes to the way that the car presents. In combination with those big, more aggressive rims, I really think it looks very sporty from the side as well. I'm a fan. What do you think? Now we come round to the back, and I think this is always going to be the hardest part of the car to design because it's the point at which form most obviously meets function. You have to include the most amount of space, but keep that brand styling. Now, because we have a different brand here from the standard Ateca, it's important to bring across that differentiation. And the way that they've done that here is largely in the lower third. We can see these dark Cupra letters, and I think they work really nicely. Lower down, we have a particularly custom bumper. Now, these 4 exhaust pipes, congratulations, Seat. Sorry, Cupra, for giving us something that really resonates with reality. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy to see these. genuine, real exhaust pipes. They look and feel great for me. Now, you could say the rear of this car is a little bit too aggressive for a small SUV, but again, I think it really needs to make a statement, and this to me makes just enough of a statement to be right. Most importantly, for my taste, I like the way that this drags away from the logo, which, let's be honest, is still going to take a little bit of time to get used to. But this tells everyone, come on, there's a bit of sport here. And if we get slightly further around to the side, when you look at the rear proportions of these cars with this off-road tyre and these studs, you've got to say that's just a little bit sexy. Come on, it looks ready for action, and that's exactly how it should do. Let's take a closer look and see what's powering this thing. Well, you're not going to get a gas strut. But what you are going to get is a 2-litre TSI turbo petrol engine. Now, that thing is producing 300 horsepower, 400 newton meters of torque, and all of that power is being delivered by a 7-speed DSG dual clutch gearbox. So it's a well-known piece of equipment. It's very nicely put together. And I think the fact that they've managed to put this into a larger body and still achieve within 0.3 seconds of the 0 to 100 time of the Leon Cupra really is testament to the amount of engineering that's gone into delivering this. I've always been a fan of this engine. I think it delivers a really nice balance between power and performance and still not killing you at the petrol station. So hopefully you'll enjoy driving it as much as I've enjoyed looking at it today. We quite literally have 2 minutes left before Jonas has to leave for his flight, but we couldn't let you go without showing you a quick overview of the interior here. As you can see, the styling is all very discreet. We have a large digital cockpit and we have an 8-inch infotainment system. Now, although this car is more expensive than its standard brother, it does come nicely loaded. So the equipment you can all see available here is exactly how your car is going to come finished. Okay, it's not going to change the world, but you know what? It's all laid out really nicely. It all works really effectively. And in any case, you're going to be having far too much fun driving it to worry about what the dashboard looks like. A lot of the time when we do ice driving events, we head really far north up into the Arctic Circle, really up into Sweden or Finland, so we can make the most of those really cold temperatures. And the reason we do that is because when they design and build the courses, the banks are all snow. The advantage of that is you can really push the cars hard, and you're going to end up in the wall on a couple of occasions. Well, here in Andorra, we're a lot further south. And the only issue with that is that what we're talking about is less snow and more ice. So if you come off the course here, it's going to turn out to be an expensive one. So for that reason, we decided to find ourselves a tame racing driver to take us around the course so we can really show you what this car can deliver. Jordi Janae, thank you very much for taking the time to do this with us.
Well, it's a pleasure, and especially in these fantastic conditions that we have today.
Well, it's a year since I last saw you, and I think you've been a little bit busy since then.
Yeah, we've been busy. Our brand has changed a lot. It was just born 1 year ago, and I think we are progressing accordingly to what we said.
Well, more important than that, you've had rather a lot of time to put some miles down on this thing. How are you finding it so far?
Well, I do enjoy a lot, honestly. It's a car that already when I test it as a prototype, I really love it. And more I drive it, more I realize that the car is great and it performs very well. And I have fun when I want to have fun. I can travel comfortably when I go with my family. So it's really a very nice car that fits perfectly to what I expect from a car.
Now, obviously, most of the people who are going to be buying this car are not going to be doing this with it. You say it's a good car for the family. Have you taken the family in the back while you've done this with it?
Sometimes, yeah. I go to ski actually where we are sitting today in Andorra. And obviously I take my family with me. I have some of my kids that really enjoy when there is snow on the asphalt, and they ask me to play a little bit with the car. And well, obviously with always having in mind that we are in an open road, but it's a car that, as I said, can be a lot of fun to drive it, and also a lot of fun to go in a racetrack like today.
Excellent, let's go. So did you have any input on designing this course that we're going to drive?
Designing the course, yes, I'm taking care of most of it, in fact. And the only thing is that okay, we are in a very high altitude circuit. It's almost 2,500 meters, but this week in Spain is almost like spring. So in the morning, early in the morning, the conditions are really good. Midday is going to be a bit warm, and in the snow we rather have cold than warm temperatures. But yeah, we try to fulfill the wishes of all the customers and press that is coming to this event.
So we really have arrived at the perfect time to get a really good look and see exactly what the Cupra Ateca can deliver. So let's take her out on the track.
Okay, let's see what you think about that.
Which were we going to start off in the Cupra mode, or are we going to?
If we go to the snow, I think the most sensible thing is to start with the snow mode. So
That
the
sounds
car
great.
will help us a little bit in, especially in safety, and also when we say safety and performance. If we don't want to just play, we can disconnect the C and make the car a bit more funny. But if we're gonna drive, and I'm gonna show you a little bit where we are now, I think it's gonna be ideal to go to snow mode just before we get into the track.
Excellent. Now, if anybody's wondering while they're watching this clip, we do actually have studded tyres on this car. So it's not quite the same as the road production one that we're driving. But these are mild spikes though. They're not too heavy duty, are they, the ones we have here?
No, well, I don't know exactly the weight, and so, but this, there are spikes that are designed and made to last long, but to be as light as possible, because if they're heavy, when we get so much speed, the inertia that the tire produces, they can fly away from the tire. So, as I said, the conditions we have, when we switch the car to snow, all the electronics will try to help us in order to have the best capacity to transmit this the grip, and also to manage to make the car handle well. So even if we use with the ESC, the ESC will try to help us, because on the snow normally we get understeer when we get in and oversteer when we get out. So the aim of the car is to have the car neutral. So when we get some understeer in the entry of a corner, as soon as we pick up a bit more speed, the system will try to kill this understeer by braking the inside rear tire and make the car slide a little bit. And on the other way around, when we go to oversteer, the car will help us by putting some more traction in the front in order to get the car sliding in with the four wheels. So you will see that the car tends to always go for neutral. So as we increase the speed, the feeling of the car should be tending to neutral.
So a large amount of what makes driving on ice and snow so much fun is finding that very precise edge between where the car is slightly losing control, but you as a driver are never losing control. What the snow mode is designed to achieve is to give you as much of that control as is possible. So it is not designed to increase your fun on the snow and ice, it's designed to increase your safety.
Exactly.
And that really helps when you're used to driving in obviously non-snowy conditions, but suddenly you have an experience, you take your car out and the road conditions start getting a little bit sketchy. It's actually really impressive how well this system works, and I'm not only talking about this car, I've used this system on many different vehicles, and a lot of times with driving modes you think, is that they're just there for effect so they can say they have it. Well, I can tell you it really makes a huge amount of difference, and Jordi brilliantly is going to give us a chance to see quite how much difference that makes.
You see, now we are starting to slide a little bit, but as soon as the car, like now, is understeering, that it suddenly brakes the inside wheel and the car turns a little bit more. On the next corner, I'll force a little bit so we get a little bit of oversteer, and you will realize that as soon as the car starts getting sideways, it will bring some force into the front axle.
Yeah,
and the oversteer is killed straight away.
That's really good.
Same thing will happen in the next corner. So I just wait a little bit, I will go a little bit too much on power, and it goes to neutral again.
Yeah.
So that is the aim of the snow mode, that we can drive, we can slide, and the car will always help us to be neutral in the middle, in the entry and the exit of the corners. So that's, as you just said, it's not just for fun, but it's for safety and for having the best performance available on the car.
Now, I lived for a couple of years in Michigan in North America, and there the road conditions, because of the lake, can change almost instantly. And having something like this in a car can make the difference between you spending a night frozen in a ditch and you getting home safely. So really, if you haven't had the chance to try it out, I highly recommend you do. It makes a huge difference to safe driving in winter. But of course, that's all about being safe. And we also want to know what these 300 horses are like when we get to have a little fun with them.
Okay, if that is the case, then next step would be, well, we have two possibilities. One possibility is to switch the ESC to Sport. That will allow us to play on the exit of the corners, but if the situation gets really difficult, at the end it will get and will take care and will take control of the car. If we really want to just have fun, we disconnect it completely, and then I give you a couple of laps and see how the car performs and how the car can play.
Perfect. Well, let's try mid-level first, because this, I think, is more representative of what a normal human being is capable of achieving in a car. And then you get to do a little showing off and show us what you can do in a car,
Okay,
which is
so
a little bit different.
I just taking off, so you will see that now when we get out of the corners and I put power, the car will make the sliding much longer.
And how different is your driving experience in the Cupra versus the standard Ateca at this point?
Well, the standard Ateca is not so reactive. We don't have so much power like now. You see now that we start sliding quite well, but on the entry of the corners, the car is still under control. We don't lose it inside. We just have the facility to get out of the corner, go sideways, and play a little bit up to a certain angle of drift.
Does
So
that
it's-
height difference make a difference to how it handles on this course, or really that's only for higher speed driving?
No,
out in-
this system, these conditions will apply to any kind of driving. So you see that we can start moving, we can start sliding, but as soon as the movement gets a bit too much, the car kills me the speed, and doesn't allow me, for example, to throw it like now. If I want to throw it, it stops the slide. So it's already one step more than before, but not the one I think we can have, which is what I'm gonna do next. So we've done a couple of laps with it in sport mode. Now I'm gonna go to fully deactivate it.
Here we go.
So it's double checking, telling me that's up to you from now on. So I hope I make not big mistakes. But you see now the angle of drift is much higher.
Yeah.
I can throw it from side to side. Then from this moment, the responsibility is mine, not to hit the wall.
Yes.
Also, I can have more wheel spin than before in the tires. If I keep pressing and using the 300 horsepower, I
That's
have
nice.
much more acceleration.
Okay, that's really nice.
And the time we are going sideways, it's also going to be much higher.
That's great. So Jordi, you did a lot of design work here on the course, and you say there's a lot of racing happening here. Have you been doing any racing here?
Not yet, because every time I plan to go racing, something happens. I have an event, so it takes me. It takes me very busy this year so far. All this winter time.
And how many cars will we have on this course at one time?
Well, maximum number of cars we have here, it's 6 today. But if
But for racing?
for racing, yeah, they try. This is 1 kilometer circuit, so we try not. Well, they try not to fulfill with too many more cars. But I think it's between 6 to 8 cars that they allow inside.
That seems insane. Does that seem? Jonas is in the back. He looks still pretty comfortable right now. I've got to tell you, it's actually a really pleasant experience going sideways, especially when you have as much trust as we have in Jordi. And needless to say, Jonas would not be looking quite so comfortable if I was driving at the moment. But can you imagine Jonas doing this with 6 other cars on the course?
It's a slow cars.
That would
well,
be.
and not only 6 other cars that some hit you, some push you, some. That is when really that the thing becomes a bit more tricky.
How many laps for a standard race?
There are short races in this track.
Because the cars get broken.
Yeah, exactly. They run out of cars if they make them much longer.
But I guess most of the impacts are relatively low speed, so you're not talking about massive damage to the cars, more the bodywork, I guess.
No, basically it's bodywork, but these walls that look quite nice now, they are icy. So that means that the car, if we really hit it, the car will bend. We will never break suspension, or unless we really make a very big mistake. But they are quite hard, and the cars are quite weak from outside because we try to make them really light. So yeah, after a couple of laps, 2-3 laps between the impacts between the cars and the impacts between the cars and the fences, normally it's 50% that go back to the to the grid.
I think you heard it here first. If Geordie asks to borrow your car, he's a good driver, but if it's snow around, then you might want to be careful which car you lent him. That's all.
You see that we played a little bit, but it was in a safe mode. So it's every moment requires a different type of car, a different type of controls on the car, and well, I think that's something that we showed during the day and during the course here.
So come on, you teased us a little bit yesterday that there's a new special Cupra coming up. Now I know if it's got Cupra written on it, that's got to be something that you're excited for. Come on, you can tell us what it's. Tell us anything.
I can tell that it's going to be a very nice car, a little bit bigger than this one, with a very nice design. And I really hope that you look forward to see it, because everything I've seen from that car is really very challenging. It's very nice, and it will be for sure one step ahead from us.
Nice car, a little bigger than this one, so sounds a little Tarraco shaped to me.
Well, I cannot say much more, but you will see in a couple of weeks' time.
Okay, well, we are going to be more than a bit excited to try that one out. And Geordie, thank you so much for taking the time to drive us around. That's great. Remember, guys, please, safety always first. But outside of that, if you want to have a lot of fun in a relatively inexpensive car, performance versus return, I think you could do a lot worse than take a look at one of these. And of course, if he's free, take Geordie out to give you a lesson. Now, okay, you buy a Cupra, you're going to know that you're going to get the performance you're looking for, but are you still going to get the usability day to day? That's really important, because for most of the time with an SUV, functionality is going to be everything. Well, I'm happy to tell you that the power is not presenting itself all the time, every minute you're driving the vehicle. So at the moment we have it in standard or comfort mode, and I can tell you that the driving experience is really very familiar to anyone who's taken an Ateca out. I say very familiar, but there are a couple of notable differences. Firstly, again, it's that dropped height. I still have a nice elevated driving position, but I definitely feel more sporty, deeper into the car and lower on the road. And I personally like that. It makes you feel a lot more agile when you're driving. It really means that you feel you're in much more contact with the road and you can throw the car around a little bit more. One of the many things that I like about this car is that the balance between weight and performance means that it feels really nimble when you take it out. And that lightness and the ease of maneuverability really translates well to day-to-day use. What's pleasing is that when you put your foot down and put it in sports mode, you find that you keep that feeling of agility and lightness that you have when you are just cruising around. But be careful, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. The nice thing about that is that I've been very pleasantly surprised by how much I've enjoyed having that power around town. People don't see this car coming for fairly obvious reasons. What I mean by that is they think, okay, small SUV, I understand. This is pottering around, it's not going anywhere terribly quickly. But your ability with those 300 horses to whip in and out of situations that are causing you trouble or concern is really nice. You might think that the only benefit in having a sportier, performance-based SUV is going to be found when you get out onto the open road, but in actual fact, it's surprising how often you take full advantage of that when you're just driving around town. So how does it feel when you're sitting in traffic as I am now? Well, of course, we've got a lot of bells and whistles on this car. We do have adaptive cruise control, and that makes a traffic situation really very simple indeed. This traffic right now isn't actually too bad, but if it was, you can set your distance to the car in front, set the adaptive cruise, and really just enjoy the ride. The scenery here, as you can probably see, is pretty spectacular. I'm not going to let it distract me from doing what I want to be doing, which is driving. But if you have a boring commute from A to B, which takes up most of your driving time, relax. This car still delivers plenty enough comfort to make that a pleasure. How's the seat itself? Well, in terms of comfort, you know, I would say it's nice. It's not what I would describe as being class leading. It gives me enough hold, so when I pick up more speed and I'm really enjoying driving on these mountain roads, I really do get as much grip as I want, but it doesn't quite give me the sporty feeling I might like. That said, if you look at the Cupra Sport seats, which are the one up, you can see those in much more detail in Thomas's full review. To me, they're visually a little overstated. That's, I guess, my personal thing with the Cupra styling, is I just don't know how much I want everybody else to be aware of what I'm driving. I quite like keeping it to me, and those seats do make quite a statement. But having done a few laps with Geordie around the ice track, I can tell you they are extremely comfortable and they hold you really nicely. So I think on seat alone, if I'm going to go with the Cupra, I think I am going to splash out a little bit more and get those bigger, slightly more comfortable sports seats. Now, if you haven't watched Thomas's review, what you won't know, time dependent, we may be able to show you or not, and that is the legroom in the back. You do lose a little bit of space with those larger, deeper seats, but you have to bear in mind this is an SUV, and that means that they can take 4 grown adults of reasonably good size, by which I mean just over 6 foot, in comfort. So I wouldn't spend too much time worrying about it. Now, as far as everything else is concerned, for the driving experience, the layout is extremely comfortable and functional. What I would say is, with the Cupra styling, I think I might have pushed it even one step further. I think differentiation is key here, and I would have borrowed a little cheat from Porsche and tried a microfiber steering wheel. I think that might have been a really nice, different finish, and it really would have set off this carbon fiber effect housing on top of the steering wheel. So that's my only slight drawback, I guess. If you're going to go with a real differentiator, the drive and the feel of the steering wheel aren't really telling me that there's anything different happening. But don't worry, the experience of everything else is. This engine is great, and the combination or selection of the engine with the 7-speed DSG is fantastic. I'm in comfort mode right now. I'm following behind a car. There's really no need for me to thinking about overtaking or taking anything but my time in driving, and we're in complete comfort here. But let's say, for argument's sake, that I want to make a little bit more of the road. Well, I'm going to find a nice spot and slow down. Now, I've got great visibility all around here, so I can let this car in front of me have a real bit of speed. And now I'm going to switch it up. Let's put it into Cupra mode. Now, I also have sports mode on this car, but in my experience, really, for getting the best, clearly they want you to put it into Cupra mode. That changes up the whole dynamic of the way that the car feels and performs. So while I'm sitting here and tell you a little bit about what the engine's doing for me, I have 300 horsepower, 400 Newton meters of torque, and a 0 to 100 or 62 miles an hour of 5.2 seconds. And to put that in perspective, that's just 0.3 of a second slower than the Cupra Leon. So not bad performance at all. What does that look like in real terms? Well, it looks a lot like this. And there we go. Now, if that looked fun, it feels fun. You're not really expecting to have that kind of performance out of this style of car. Okay, it's not really going to blow you away. 5.2 seconds is not the fastest car you'll have ever driven, but in an SUV, it feels great. I would say that it's just enough. I really like it being here. If you want more performance than that, well, other than the fact you're going to be looking into a whole different price bracket, you're also going to be looking at much poorer fuel efficiency. And given that most people are going to want to use this car day to day, that's a bit of a shame. Let's hear how that sound works again. And then on the brakes, and we can feel that the way that the power works in performance with the chassis and the braking is superb. We have the Brembo brakes fitted here, and they are effortless. I think that's a really good word to describe the drive. Thomas said that when he gave this vehicle his full review. And what I think he meant by that is that if you drive a typical sports car that's purely designed for sports, it can be pretty hard work. Sports brakes in particular can take a lot of getting used to. They require a lot of effort. But I think the primary focus that was put into designing this vehicle is that it should be sporty enough to give you the experience, but comfortable enough and relaxed enough to enjoy everyday use. And what's really great about these mountain roads is you get the opportunity to see just how well that weight is used. It's a nice light car, it's a powerful enough engine, and you have the lovely balance of being able to take advantage of all of that without ever really feeling that you're going to too much effort. So let's be honest, if you're a sports car enthusiast, it's not going to be enough for you. Let me be very clear about that. But if you want to take a bit of time and find out what you can achieve with this car, there's plenty of opportunity to have it put a big grin on your face. And because of that slightly smaller engine for a sports car, we still have reasonable fuel efficiency. What does that mean? Well, in our driving so far, we've been looking at around about 9.5 litres for every 100 kilometers driven, or 10.5 if we're hammering it a little bit. And I think those numbers are a fair reflection. In day-to-day use, you're going to get much better than that. So in terms of its performance of fuel versus size versus engine and power, I'm really very happy with the output of this vehicle. I'm really very happy with the handling. The pairing of the gearbox with the engine is fantastic. No need here for a manual whatsoever. And everything about the drive is just great. Not only can you drive it easily and with great comfort when you want to go pick up, let's say, elderly relatives, but when you're by yourself and you want to have a bit of fun, well, there is bags to enjoy about this car. And at the same time, you can still go and pick up some logs in the back. Well, we finally managed to make it to the airport just in time for Jonas to catch his flight after a marathon 4-hour drive here. So, because of the striking in Catalonia today, not quite able to bring you the interior in as much detail as we ordinarily would have liked. But if you want to see a lot more detail in that, please check out Thomas's full review. You'll find that in the comments below. But thanks to our extensive drive back, we have had a more than sufficient amount of time to give this car a really thorough run through its paces. What do we think about it? Well, okay, it is a significant jump up in terms of price over a standard Ateca. You're looking at a base price of 43,000, and if you fully load it, it doesn't take a lot of effort to get to around about 50. So that doesn't make it a cheap car. But it does make it significantly cheaper than its sportier small SUV rivals. So if you're shopping for a sports SUV, then I highly recommend you can take a look, because within that sector, it is very competitively priced. Don't compare it at price point to an Ateca. That isn't what it is. But don't forget, if you stock up the Ateca with all of the whistles and bells, you can take that to pretty close to the same region on money as well. So that said, how does it all add up? Well, I think they've done a fantastic job of putting all the component pieces together. The engine's great. It's a huge amount of fun at a standard usage figure of around about 9.5 litres. Fuel efficiency, I think that's a really nice balance between performance and still economy. 5.2 seconds is more than sufficient acceleration for a car like this, and it's surprisingly agile to drive round, even fast and nippy throughout town. So you can have a lot of fun driving this car. Looks, well, okay, it's not going to be to everybody's taste, but as I have said a few times now, I think it's going to take a few of us a while to fall in love with the whole Cupra branding thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Don't forget, these earlier models, when new brands come out originally, that people aren't that complimentary about, in years to follow become classics. Do you think that's going to happen with this car? I don't know, we're going to have to wait and see. Cupra is still a very new brand, and they're still cutting their teeth in terms of identifying what their style should look like. In the meantime, it's all about the drive. This car delivers exactly what you would expect from its parent company, but a little bit more. It's the icing on the cake. The drive really is a huge amount of fun, but look at all that practicality you still have. So, for me, for my pick, if I had to choose between having one of these or the Leon Cupra, you know what? I'd give up that 0.3 seconds and I'd go with this. It's still huge amounts of fun, less people see it coming, and you know what? I think it managed to put a smile on both mine and Jonah's faces. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed watching this today. We had a lot of fun making it. We hope we'll see you again soon. Don't forget, if you have any comments or questions, pop them below. Please subscribe, and we hope we'll see you all again soon.